Everybody is doing well. Let me do a quick refresher on here just to make sure everything's showing up correctly for you. Nice, there we go. All right. Oh, wow. And I just saw the chat. We got quite a few of you on here. Excellent, excellent. So just getting everything set up. This is Paint with Lovejoy. We are going to be painting a red panda today. Viewer request. This guy's going to be really cute. And while I'm looking at the chat right now, oh my gosh, hi Mike, hi Anita, Denise, photography queen, awesome. Thank you guys so much for jumping on and hanging out today. All right, so a few things of what you're looking at on your screen. I am working on an 8x10 panel, so it's flat compared to a stretched canvas that will be a little bit taller, just a little bit more width on the edge. And we already have our design drawn on the canvas. So you have two options for this. You can pause the video, draw what you see, and then pick up the video for the painting portion. Or there's a link in the description box below, and you can acquire what we call a traceable. And you'll go to my website, you purchase it, download it, print it out, and then with carbon paper, you transfer your traceable to your canvas. And for my first time and beginner painters, that's a nice tool to utilize so you don't have to stress about trying to draw and get frustrated before you even start painting. And then this way you can actually focus on the painting portion. And we are working on getting you to draw more. So I do have a video on how to simply use a simple grid method to draw this on your screen. So check my YouTube videos, and there is a link in the description box below for how to do that as well. But we're basically just going to keep building on your creative skills as we go through this. Awesome. And if you have any questions today, please feel free to leave a comment in the chat and I will address it while we're painting. So for this guy, we're going to do kind of a green background, imagining that he is hanging out in a nice lush forest. And every picture that I was looking at for the red pandas, so many of them had their little tongue sticking out and it was adorable. So I ended up picking one of those. So he'll have a cute little pink tongue. So because I'm on a smaller canvas, I am using smaller brushes. If you're painting on something a little bit bigger, feel free to use a larger brush. And we're going to fill in the background with green, and you get your choice of green. You can go with your direct green, or you can do what I'm doing and mix the yellow and green, and I'm going for a bit more of a spring green color. So like I said, totally your call what shade, and if you even want to go a completely different color, if you want a purple background, black, red, blue, whatever you want, you have full permission to switch up anything in this video on your own painting. So as you apply your paint, try a few different brush strokes. We've got kind of the full width. You can turn it sideways, go a little bit skinnier, or what you saw me doing here, literally just kind of slapping it on the canvas, taking out any frustrations and anxiety that you might be feeling, and literally slap it into your canvas. Also, you can see that some places you can see my brush strokes showing up, and you can see some places where the paint is a little bit more transparent and we can see the canvas through it. I am using student grade paint. This channel is dedicated to first time and beginner painters, so I paint with what you might be using at home. And student grade paint is a bit on the transparent side, so you've got two options. You can apply your paint a little bit thicker, or let it dry and apply a second layer to it, a second coat. And whatever you might need to do to adjust for yours, just do that. But you have options with the tools that you might be using. And it's totally okay to adjust based on your tools or your environmental factors. That's kind of the process of art. And that's why it's a very personal experience, and there's no exact right or wrong way to create art. It's more about the physical, actual process of creating art. That's important. All right, and if you are at home painting on a stretched canvas, I do recommend that you carry this color over the sides, the tops, and the bottom. So that way when you hang it on the wall, it just looks really nice having that color wrap around the edge. And should you paint your background on the inside of your animal, on the inside of your traceable, don't freak out. It's going to be okay. You just let that paint dry and then you apply a new paint on top of it, or you can take a paper towel, wipe it off, and then you'll apply your new color on top. So basically, don't stress out. There's enough other things in life to stress out about. Art does not need to be one of them. All right, so should you want to change the shade of your background, like if you want one place that's a little bit darker, we're going to grab that dark or the direct green. You literally just kind of slap it on top of your canvas, on top of your background color. This is called wet on wet blending. Your background is wet, the new paint that we're introducing is wet, and then we're going to blend them together. It's exactly what you did on your plate. We're just going to do it on your background instead. If you feel like finger painting for this part, go right ahead. It's very satisfying and a lot of fun. And just play with it. That's what you're here to do. And if you are watching the video, if you're painting along and you realize you're holding your breath right now, take a big inhale, just relax. We're going to have fun for this little session. And I'm proud of you for painting at home. And even if you're just watching the video, I'm still proud of you for doing that, because this is relaxing and hopefully you don't have the news on in the background or anything else, and you're just zoning out into this process. Whoops, and like here, I just went right over the side of my red panda. That's all right. All right, oh, we got a few more people. Hi, Chloe. Hi, Rhonda. Glad you guys could make it. All right, and okay, so we've got a question. Denise is asking, I don't usually mention it, but do I always have the canvas in landscape position? I think primarily there's probably a larger portion of the demos that I do that are in landscape compared to portrait, where it's vertical and tall. There's not really a huge reason. Most landscape stuff, I kind of do stick with that just so that way you can incorporate a little bit more. But I don't really have a rhyme or reason as to which one I'm going to use. Sometimes it does come down to like the shape of the head of the animal, because it's kind of wide. That's probably why I chose more the landscape instead of a portrait, because that would have cut off his ears. So sometimes it depends on the composition. But if you want to do one of the paintings that I do, if I paint it in landscape and you want to do it in portrait mode, go right ahead, switch that up. And I've had quite a few people do that with a lot of the landscape and sunset palm tree paintings that they've been sending me pictures on. All right, so you do want to do everything that you want to your background. Then we're going to move into our panda. And our panda actually, our red panda has white ears, a little white mask right here, almost some kind of like Wolverine sideburns right here, and then little eyebrows. But everything else from those areas is going to be this kind of deep reddish brown. And we are going to start with the darkest spaces first. So we're going to go pretty dark here with our burnt sienna and black, and then I'll work our way lighter, and then we'll move into the white areas and then that little tongue last. So for our darker areas, we're going to be using this color quite a bit, and this is my reddish brown. This is burnt sienna. Raw sienna is that light brown that I've used in some of the other demos. If you do not have burnt sienna, you can take your raw sienna and you can add a touch of red to it, and that will bring it up closer to the reddish brown, and maybe a touch of black to it, but be very sparing with both of those colors as you're changing your shade of your lighter brown. And even if you get a slightly different shade than what I'm working on at home or working on here, totally okay. So we're going to start again with that dark space. So I'm going to pull some of my burnt sienna out, and we're going to add a touch of black to it. And again, with the black, I like to kind of put that right next to it and then slowly pull that into the color that I'm mixing it with. So it's still kind of hanging out in that brown range. We're just going a little bit darker. And we're just actually going to put this in a few select areas. It's mainly his chest right here that is in shadow. So as you're painting at home, I want you to just observe the placement that I put each color and the general shape that I make when I place that color on there. And do the best to your ability to kind of just mimic that on your canvas. It does not have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be exactly like what I paint. Your brain's learning a lot each time that you paint, and I do challenge you to do different things each time that you paint, just so that way you get more exposure to the things that you're going to like and what you're going to focus on as you get more and more into your creative outlets. And again, I'm using that student grade paint, so applying it a little bit thicker. And to apply it thicker, instead of coming in with my brush perpendicular to the canvas, to where that's going to make the brush strokes kind of show up, I'm holding that brush at that 45-degree angle and really just kind of using the side of my brush, and then kind of like icing a cake, just trying to use that light pressure and manipulate the paint on top of the canvas. All right. So let's see, we're going to put this in just 2 more spots, and we will actually use this color for the eyes. So I will jump down to that small pointy brush, and I need to make a little bit darker again. All right, and that's going to be kind of right here next to his little white cheeks. And again, just kind of notice the general shape that I make with this. We will apply a few colors on top of this particular section, but just observe what you see and mimic it to the best of your ability. All right, and I am going to jump down and grab that small pointy brush. I'm going to make a little bit more of that burnt sienna and black color combo. There we go, and actually went a little darker than I wanted, so let's add a little more burnt sienna. And we're basically going to fill in the section of his eyes minus the pupil. And if you happen to paint on top of the pupil, totally okay. We will reapply it at a later point in this video. And should you go over your pupil or even over that little white dot in the pupil, we can reapply it at the end of the video or at the end of this little demo. All right, so moving back up to that middle flat brush, now we're going to bump down a color, and I'm actually just going to use this raw sienna by itself, just in a few spaces, and then we'll jump down and add a little bit of white to that. And after I apply this, I may add a touch of red to it. And yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. So I'm still going to pull a little bit of that aside. We're going to add a touch of red to it to make it even more reddish brown. And you may notice that it looks, you may think it's almost too red on your plate, but then when we apply it here, and let's see, let's apply it in a fresh spot. There we go. Actually, that's pretty close to this little guy's color. So you may mix your color here, but it may look a little bit different once you apply it to your canvas. So if you need to adjust your color on your plate after you've applied it to your canvas, totally okay. What you're witnessing is what we call color theory. We interpret our colors based on the color right next to it. So that's why it looks a little bit different on your plate compared to when you put it on your canvas. And another reason why there's no exact right or wrong way to do your painting. All right, and I'm actually just going to go right on top of that burnt sienna that I applied earlier. It will mix a little bit and change the color, but just going to kind of incorporate that since I already threw that blob of paint on canvas. And you can see the places where I am overlapping, where my background got onto the design of our composition today on top of our red panda. So with acrylic paint, if you paint something that you don't like and that paint dries, just take another color and paint right on top of it. You may have to do 1 or 2 coats, or you may have to apply it a little bit thicker, depending on the color that you are painting on top of. All right, so now we're going to move into a lighter color. I'm just going to shift my palette a little bit so I can see the color a little better. So you don't really need to wash this out because we will add a touch of red to this new color. So I'm going to make a new pile here. We're going to add some white to it and kind of start off light with that white because we're not going to jump down too quickly, but we are toning down the color. So we want to go probably about 3 to 4 shades lighter than what we were just using. And this again is kind of on that cool side, so we're going to add a little bit of the red, so because we have our red panda. And again, yours might be a slightly different shade, totally okay. All right, let's see, most of his forehead's going to get this. Let's see, we've got his little wing chops, so I'm just going to draw the space. There we go, I just forgot to put that line, so we'll follow that line on this side. And I am just kind of pulling my brush, kind of radiating out. So I'll be moving in this direction on this side of the face, and then I'll be moving in this direction on this side of the face. And you want to kind of imagine that each brush stroke is like a strand of fur. So you're moving your brush in the direction that the fur goes. And when we paint animals and do this, moving your brush in the direction of the fur movement helps give that overall vibe and feel that we've got fur here and we've got thickness. But kind of like the Van Gogh and the Monet paintings, having the brush stroke move in the direction that the movement actually is happening helps make sure painting, helps make the composition stand a lot stronger and more believable to the viewer that might be observing your painting. All right, and now I'm actually going to clean that brush really good. This next color that we're going to use doesn't have nearly as much red in it, so I'm going to make a new pile. And this time we can start with the white, again, just so you can kind of see the difference of how the color builds. And then I'm going to start with some burnt sienna to mix into this pile. There we go, and I was looking for a bit creamier color. And I'm going to put one dot on my canvas just to see if it's light enough or if it's too light. Nope, that will work. Excellent. All right. So again, I'm going to keep with those radial brush strokes, and I am using my brush pretty on the width, the wider point of the brush compared to the sideways. So whichever one that you might end up be using, not a problem. All right, so the canvas size, Chloe's got the question, what size canvas are for these demonstrations? Pretty much all of these are going to be 8 by 10 panels. And it's more for the fact that as I film this, and my filming is set up to where I'm flat on the table and you guys are viewing down on my setup, having the smaller canvases helps to fit everything into the viewfinder nicely. So I don't actually have to be in the video. And then it also helps because I try to keep these at a half hour to 50 minutes, 30 to 50 minutes. So the smaller canvas I can get done in a shorter amount of time. But if you want to work on a larger canvas and you download that Traceable, you can resize it and reuse it as many times as you want. So feel free to manipulate that file as needed, or you'll just train yourself to draw your painting bigger if you're using a bigger canvas. All right, so we're filling in his forehead, kind of going around the eyes. Again, you're just kind of strengthening your power of observation. And I looked at so many red panda photos. These guys are really way cuter than I remembered. And just their little tongues sticking out are just adorable. But if you feel like you want to put a particular color that I'm using somewhere else that I don't put, go right ahead, because there is a lot of variety to these cute little red pandas that you don't have to copy exactly what I do. And no matter what you do, whether you change it or go with the same flow on the demo, please email me photos of your paintings. I love seeing those, and I've been putting collages together of your guys' paintings and posting those on social media. And it's amazing how many people are going to the videos and painting and trying based on you guys' photographs. So you are instrumental in helping Paint with Lovejoy grow and getting more people involved. So send me your photos, share this with your community. Everybody, so many people are stressed out right now that we need more stress relieving activities for people. So share what is helpful to you with your community. Okay, this guy's coming along pretty nicely. We will probably come back to this color, and I'm thinking where the white and the red fur kind of meet, we'll come back and do a few little transitions. So just kind of doing that right now so I remember to do that later. Okay. All right, so clean that brush really good. We're going to go to some shades of gray for the ears, those little eyebrows, kind of basically the rest of the space on our canvas. And then we'll probably go back in and go get a few more little highlights on our little panda. So we're going to start with kind of a medium gray. So I'm going to pull some of this white aside. You do want to make sure your brush is clean because you don't want to contaminate it with your browns. We want to kind of stay with our grays here. And again, I'm going to grab some black, put it to the side, start mixing it with that blob of white. And we are going for about a medium gray. We will tone this particular one down in a moment. And we're going to kind of lay the inside of the ears first, and then we'll go a little bit darker and then a little bit lighter. So these inside portions of the ears, going right over those lines. And a note on the Traceable. When you download the Traceable and use carbon paper to transfer it, it's going to be a lot lighter line than what you saw at the beginning of this video. After I transfer with the Traceable, I go over mine with a Sharpie marker. For those of you at home that will be drawing what you see based on what you see on the video. So I go over them with the black Sharpie markers to make it easier to see that. You guys at home do not have to do the Sharpie marker addition unless you choose to. All right, so we've got our kind of medium, lightish medium gray here in the center of the ears, and then I just kind of went under those little cheeks and a little bit under the tongue. And now we're going to go with a pointy brush. We're going to go a little bit darker, and then we're going to come back with some lighter gray and then pure white. All right, so going a bit darker gray, and I can use the rest of that black that's right there. There we go, going pretty dark. And I actually want to go a touch darker, so I'm going to add a little more black. All right, and this we're going to shoot on the inside of the ears, and I'm just kind of blobbing it on there. It is mixing a little bit because that medium gray is still wet, so some of that wet on wet blending you can play with. And then let's see his little gum line right here. And actually, you know what? Let's go to black for that because that is pretty dark on the picture. So I just kind of clean my brush really quick. We're going to that pure black paint, and we're going to give him a pretty solid gum line. This is going to make his little tongue stand out even more when we do that section. All right, and while we're with the pointy brush, we're actually going to, I'll leave the black that's on my brush, go back to that dark gray, just kind of mix that extra black in there, and we're going to go to the nose. And let's see, this bottom section of the nose is going to be the dark gray. And I'm going to go right over those nostril lines. We'll go back with the black and reapply it. All right, so just wiping off that excess paint, back to the black, and where those little nostril lines were, we're just going to put that black right there. Don't have to be perfect. And then we're going to go back up. I wiped off that extra paint off the brush. We're going to go back to this color, but make it a little bit darker. So just kind of getting that middle color between these two. And this is going to be the top of the nose, a little bit lighter. All right. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the super light gray. Because this is white fur here, I'm not going to allow you to leave just the white of the canvas. You have to give some illusion of depth. And to do that on a white surface, we actually have to put a little bit of light gray, and then we'll put pure white on top of it. So I'm going to move back up to this big brush, wipe off that excess paint, and we're going lighter than what we were using. So just kind of making that new pile here, pulling some of that light gray into it, and we are going very light gray. And just be a little careful if you do start overlapping one of your other colors on your plate. And we're just going to put this in a few little areas, and then we'll fill in the rest of the space. And I'm going to make mine just a touch darker so it's easier for you guys to see at home. But at home, I do want you to go pretty light for your light gray. So like I said, I'm just going a little bit darker on mine so it's a bit more obvious as you guys paint at home watching the video. And I am holding that brush sideways using the skinny marks. And again, moving that brush in the direction that the fur would be going. And by putting this gray on here first and then the white, We'll do a little bit of that wet on wet blending when we add the white to it. But again, this just helps create that illusion of a 3D object on our flat 2D surface. So I tell all my students, you guys are magicians. You're creating this illusion of a 3D object on a flat surface. So that makes you a magician. All artists are magicians. All right, and then a little bit on his chin, and these I'm gonna, whoops, and I got some of the brown in there. So if that happens, I don't think I have an extra paper towel right here, so I'm gonna tear a little bit from down here. And I'm gonna wipe it off more for the fact that I'm using a light color paint, so it would be harder. I'd have to wait longer for it to dry before I could put the white on top of it. So if that happens to you, just wipe it off and then pick up where you left off for your painting portion. Oh, we got to get that other little eyebrow and then a few in the ears, and then we'll go into our whites. All right, and a little bit in the ears. And this one I'm actually going to go ahead and start overlapping. It looks like my background is dry, and they do have these really fuzzy little ears. So I'm overlapping the background as well as the perimeter of the line. And if you're using student grade paint like I am, every 2 brush strokes, grab more paint so that way it's a little bit thicker to compensate for the colors underneath. It's got cute little fuzzy ears. All right, and then we're going to be moving into the white paint, filling in this remaining space. So go ahead, clean that brush out. And super exciting. If you guys have watched other videos, you know how much I enjoy putting white on a white canvas. It is better to do that so that way you have something on there and you can blend softly this light gray into that white so that way you don't have a harsh line. So again, just kind of play with that. The more that you do this, the more comfortable you're going to get and find your blending style. And as you guys dive more and more into your creative outlets, jump on over, check out my online school, Paint with Lovejoy. I have pretty much all the YouTube videos on there, except for the demos. I'll be adding those next week. And I have monthly, more in-depth courses on the Paint with Lovejoy. So check out my Intro to Knife Scraping course. It's a monthly subscription. I want you to finish in 30 days and then cancel your subscription. And then when you want to do it again, join the course again. And then I also have my my Paint Your Pet class. And that is geared towards first-time and beginner painters. And you'll learn to paint from your own photograph of your pet. And it's a class that I've taught for, I think we're coming on 8 years now, with a lot of success here in San Diego. And I wanted to be able to reach more people in the world. So about 2 years ago, I started filming and compiling all the online courses. And then given our current circumstances, really grateful I started that as long ago as I did, just to have those options out there for everybody. As everybody gets more and more comfortable working remotely, working online, or working in our new public way of dealing with all of this and keeping everybody safe. And those of you that are working on the front lines, thank you so much for everything that you are doing, keeping yourself safe, keeping everybody else safe, keeping people supplied. I don't think we could ever thank you guys enough, so greatly appreciated. All right, so here as we get into those ears again, do those little fuzzy lines that overlap the background and the perimeter of the ears. And And again, every 2 or 3 brush strokes, grab more paint because your white is generally going to be a lot lighter color, and you got to apply a little bit more to compensate. If you're applying your brush strokes and you're realizing that your brush strokes just get whiter and whiter and whiter, take a look at your brush. Do you have a lot of paint buildup where the bristles meet the metal? And if you do, wipe off that excess paint, maybe clean your brush out, and then notice how it brings your bristles back together. So a little bit of kind of brush maintenance for you. All right, we are in the home stretch of this painting. We still have to get a little tongue on there, and then we're going to go and do some details on the eyes. But this guy's turned out super cute. I liked yesterday's painting too. That zebra was a lot of fun and super colorful. If you can't tell already by looking at my website, I thoroughly enjoy painting animal subject matters. Doing these daily demos and the different things that you guys have asked me to paint has been an amazing and awesome challenge. And quite a few things that I've painted in these are stuff that I will go out and paint on my own. So just as much as you guys are challenging yourself at home, I'm challenging myself as well by doing the demos. After filming for the last couple of years, it's certainly a lot more comfortable, but my first couple months of filming, oh my gosh, I was way too hypercritical of myself. So as you're doing stuff new and stepping out of your normal, be kind to yourself. It takes a lot of courage to learn a new skill and to try something new. And when you do that and you're successful and you see what you accomplished, hopefully it makes it a little bit easier to step out of your comfort zone and try other things that you want to try. So a lot of things that you learn in art and your creative exploration, you can apply to other areas in your life. All right, so we're gonna get that little tongue on there. So I'm gonna pull some of this white aside. Tiny, tiny, tiny amount of red goes a long way to make a pink. And we don't have much of a shadow on this tongue. So you can make it whatever shade of pink that you want. And that's pretty much gonna be, all we do is just kind of fill it in. I will put a touch of a highlight on here. Now you do want to make sure your black, that black lip line is dry so you don't get the black into your pink paint. All right, so clean that brush really good. We're going to go to black paint. We're going to redo the eyeliner on the eyes and the pupil. And then I think, oh, we got to add some whiskers. I was going to say he's got some serious whiskers on this one. So basically just doing the eyeliner. Remember to breathe, light pressure on your brush. And if you need to, put your pinky out. You can rest that somewhere and use that as your pivot point, or rest your forearm against the edge of the table. And if you find that you are shaky, your brush is shaky as you go to touch the canvas, that means you're holding your breath. So exhale as your brush touches the canvas, and it's going to make it a little bit easier for you. So I outlined the eye and I went over the pupil. And I'm going to do something that's a common mistake or a common thing that happens with a lot of my students. To when you're putting that pupil in, sometimes you go right over that white dot and you lose it. And that's okay if you do that. But even just take a notice of how much this eye looks like a zombie compared to that little white dot brings so much life to it. So we will reapply the white dot after we give that black just a little bit of time to dry while I do this other eyeball. So basically what I'm trying to just get you to understand is that there's nothing that's the end of the world with painting. And if you paint something you don't like, we can fix it. You can fix it. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing to this eye just so I do the both dots in the same area. So again, just went over the pupil and the eyeliner and making that pupil just a touch bigger. So again, if you want to adjust anything as you're going through the painting process, totally okay. All right, oh, and it looks like I forgot to put white down here on his chin, so we'll do that. It's a good thing we're going back into the white then. Awesome. So let me fill in this white for the chin. Then we'll put that catch light in and then whiskers, and that should bring us into the conclusion of the painting today. And let's see, I think thought I saw a suggestion. Yes, ooh, a water lily. I believe, I'll have to double check. It's been a while since I've looked at the future demo list. I think there's either a lotus flower or a lily pond on there. I'm not sure. So, excuse me, double check that. But I'll make sure I add a lily pond to the list if it's not there. Good suggestion. All right, so on this little chin, and this is going to give us good practice for the whiskers. And again, make sure that your paint's dry. We're going to make these little dash marks, and I want you to just kind of play with the pressure of your brush. My wrist is kind of resting up against the edge of this little table. I don't think you guys can see it in the video, but give yourself some bit of a structure for your arm, whichever hand that you're painting with, to kind of lean up against instead of trying to hold your arm steady and make these little tiny lines. Because again, you want to use that light pressure just to get these little wispies. And be kind to yourself if this is your first painting. These wispies get easier with more and more practice. So I'm going to do that same thing with the little wispies here. If your paint's on the thicker side, you can add a touch of water to it, and that will help kind of give you a little bit more fluid paint and makes it easier to do some of these little smaller details and little wispy lines. All right. And for that white dot in the eyes, again, you can reference the Traceable for the placement, but you do want to make sure that the placement is the same on both eyes. And we're literally going to touch the canvas and pull the brush right back. And like I said, it's important that you put this little dot in the same spot on both eyes for continuity. All right, now we're going to work on those whiskers. This is totally optional, and I highly recommend that you let everything dry before you do your whiskers. If you really want whiskers, but the brush is super intimidating, you can get a silver or white Sharpie marker and do your whiskers with holding the pen. And I also recommend that you practice your whisker mark making, because you're going to be going for these long, kind of thin lines on a scrap sheet of paper before you come to doing it on your canvas. And again, you want to kind of steady your forearm somewhere, and we're just doing this quick light pressure mark making. Ugh. Add some water to my paint. It's starting to gum up. There we go. There we go, much better. So again, like I said, you will find your own groove for making these long skinny lines, and they get better with more practice. And as you see me doing it, I am trying to keep that light pressure, so there's sometimes that I make these movements, but there's no paint that actually gets applied to the canvas. That's totally okay. That's part of your practice. Try not to think about it and breathe right before you make your mark. All right, I keep trying to get one there. There we go. All right, so I'm just looking at my photograph right now, seeing if there's any other questions that need to be addressed. No, doing pretty good. Excellent. So I am so grateful that you guys come and hang out with me every morning. You keep me accountable. You keep me coming and doing this. And it has been just really nice to have this as a daily thing that I do. It's kept me sane during all these changes and things happening. So I greatly appreciate your efforts and your presence of being here and showing up, and your support and encouragement. So thank you. I think tomorrow is a landscape painting. I haven't decided if I'm going to use knife or not, but it should be a nice painting, and it seems like everybody likes landscapes quite a bit here. But yeah, so email me any of your photos, pictures or paintings that you do, any suggestions for future stuff. And I do believe we're about a month out. I just haven't gotten the new suggestions up on the YouTube list, but I have them next to my computer as I search for subject matter. So, yeah, so I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see everybody tomorrow. Cheers.